Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. You guys all set? Okay, I'm going to introduce Mr. Curley, who's going to introduce our student who's going to lead us in the pledge.
Come on and join me. Just going to face the board for starters, okay? This is Dakota Taylor. Dakota's an 8th grader here in Mrs. Lewis's classroom. Here all alone tonight, very brave to do the pledge. This is what Mrs. Lewis writes about Dakota. Dakota is a mature, humorous, hard-working young lady. She's willing to lend a hand without being asked. Classmates view her as a positive member of the 8th grade class. She's an active member of the class and has contributed to yearbook planning and end-of-the-year activities. And I would add that in my 3 years here, I've had a lot of conversations with Dakota, and I find her to be one of our kiddos that has really matured so nicely over the last few years. I really think she's that 8th grader who's ready to head on out and go to high school and succeed. So good for you, Dakota. Embarrassing enough?
Nice job.
That's awesome. So we'll turn when you're ready to start the pledge, the rest of you and face the camera.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Not so bad, right? And look at this, I got a little gift for you. You can wear this to school tomorrow. Our kiddos with a little cloth in.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to stay a little bit or
Thank
head
you,
out.
Dakota.
Thank you for
Okay.
coming.
Bye, Dakota.
Bye.
Good job, Dakota. Okay, do we have any PTA representatives? No? Okay, Tim.
All right. I passed you papers out. I put at the top the answer to the couple questions that Andrew had given me. Basically, from when we started, and for the life of me, I couldn't remember exactly when that start date was, but back a month or so ago, to the end of the year, it'll be approximately $1,500 just for the fuel maintenance piece for adding that extra run. And that's just strictly going on mileage, so I don't have obviously actual, but guesstimate. And obviously the discipline has gone down because of it. At least we haven't had the issues between the high school, elementary going on, so that has certainly helped a lot. And of course made some room for the elementary buses. So.
Were there a lot of incidences with the high school and the grammar school students? So
There was a
fair amount?
few handfuls of incidents that we've had between high school students.
So this is really a major change then?
Right.
Okay.
And then we can get into where the buses are parked. There's a sheet in, I'm not sure which page. I think it's the second page for you guys.
Anybody have any questions on where the house?
And then I just got the driver's name, the road that it's parked in the area, and then where their run starts, and whether they're regular ed or special ed. And while you guys are looking at that, I've given some fun facts here. Basically, we have 15 buses in our fleet.
Mass doesn't have one of those. Did just somebody pick up 2?
No?
There was 10 of them. Though.
I can.
Thanks.
You need the bus package, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get the other? My seat. Yeah.
Okay, Tim.
Yep.
Sorry,
We have 15 buses in our fleet, 4 of which are spares. 3 are used for high school, elementary runs, and 2 are, well, before the change, were strictly just elementary buses, but now obviously doing that elementary piece in the afternoon. 6 buses, vans, are used for special ed, and if you look at the list with driver assignment and also the other list, bus 17 and 18 have been scheduled to be phased out, and this year I think it's definitely time. Just each year they cost a little bit extra to run. We haven't gotten rid of 18 because that's the second wheelchair bus, but I think it's costing us more at this point to keep it, so that's a decision that's going to be coming. But like I said, those 2 buses were supposed to be phased out over the past couple of years anyways.
What size bus are they?
They're the small
Like
buses.
a van or a small bus?
They're like 24 passenger, 15 to 24 passengers, something like that. The small bus.
Well, we do have another bus for handicap or wheelchair,
Yes.
right? Okay.
And then the special ed buses travel on average about 200 miles per day, and then the regular ed buses on average about 110 miles per day. And then it just lists the different areas that we're traveling for special ed. We do have the late bus, as you know. The Rochester late bus leaves at 10 minutes after 5. Making the 4 stops coming up through town, and the Paul School late bus now leaves at 4:20, and that has multiple stops throughout town. Currently, we're transporting approximately 150 high school students and 275 Paul School students, and 18 special ed students. Right now, we have 2 trainers, myself and Celeste. We've both been through the certification, which is a huge piece because the state regulations have changed a little bit, requiring that much more training than before, and it has to be done by that certified trainer. Before, we were used to able to just have, Doug could come in and give a lesson, say, on discipline, and we could count that as training. Well, now if myself or Celeste is not present at the class, it wouldn't count towards the driver's training that they're required to have each year. And then we're always looking for sub-drivers, so I just put the piece in, what we have to do, or a new driver coming on, what they would have to do. Obviously, they're going to go through the motor vehicle and criminal record background check. They have to have a 10-hour class. That's just classroom time. And then anywhere from 10 to 30 hours of behind-the-wheel training. They have 4 written tests that they have to take at the DMV. And then a 1-hour skills test with the Department of Safety. That's with the state troopers testing their skills. And then each year they have to maintain a minimum of the 8 hours. And just a couple of things that I didn't put on. Our state inspection, which will have all of our buses done, that's going to take place on July 18th. And that's when we actually get the certificate that it can be called a school bus. So that certificate goes on. That program is actually going to be changing for next year. So we're kind of in limbo. This is the last year that's going to, the current program that they've been doing for years, that's the last year for it. So we're interested to see what they've got up their sleeves on how the new process is going to work. And just a fun fact, I've been nominated for the president of the New Hampshire School Bus Association.
Congratulations.
It certainly helps us because obviously everything that's coming down the pike with new laws and regulations, I'm right there in the thick of it. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
yeah. And we have no scheduled replacements for this year, so we're not going to be looking to purchase any buses for this year.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
An off year's always nice.
We can
Yeah,
get rid
right.
of those two, that's 17 and 18, without replacing.
Right.
Okay.
Is Wayne interested in either one of those?
I did talk to him
Yeah.
back this fall, because like I said, it was scheduled to go out.
Right.
And he did mention taking a look at it and seeing if that's something that between the selectmen and you
Right.
guys, we can work something out.
So you're gonna get a hold of him before you
Correct.
dispose of it?
Right.
Because he was
Yep.
saying to me that he'd rather have a smaller bus like that, 15 to 26, than a big bus, because a
Right.
lot of times their trips are 10,
Just got a handful
13
of
kids. and-
Right. Yep.
Okay, great.
And then it just gives, one of the sheets just gives a list of all the vehicles that we've got and who the drivers are. And then the last page is the budget, which you've got, but you can see the big ticket items on the graph there.
Does anybody have any questions of Tim?
The repairs, is that pretty steady, or have you seen like an increase in the cost in repairs because of having the older buses? Is that-
We have been pretty consistent on what the bills are coming in. Obviously, we've got some items that are getting close to needing potential big repair, like, for example, a transmission. But they're working on, trying to repair what we've got, so that a whole transmission doesn't need to be completed.
Well, it's pretty much like bus 17 and 18.
Correct.
Every time, because it's not to cost more.
Yep,
Okay.
so that's kind of where we're at, but pretty
That's
much
heavy.
staying steady.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions of Tim?
Well, I know I'm still getting a lot of complaints about these buses traveling to areas out of town, so I would like to see a comprehensive, exact cost, what it's costing us in everything to do, because I have it all the time. Why do I keep seeing a bus up in Ossipee? Why do I see a bus down in Milton all the time? People, how come I see buses with one kid driving through town?
Especially-
20 minutes later, you see a 77 passenger with one kid on it. You see a 24 passenger 20 minutes later with two kids. I mean, for example, you're looking at one here that's housed in Milton, and it starts, the route starts at Pine River Pond Road. I mean, I want to know how much this is costing, because the figures that I received last year, and these are just the figures, and they're not, granted, they may not be specific, but the figures that I received from Mr. Eldridge, calculating his figures, came out in excess of $72,000 a year. So I want to know exactly, because I'm getting so many complaints that people want answers, and I want to give them the answers of what the tax dollars that they are actually spending to send a bus from Milton to Pine River Pond Road. I mean, that's on 4 trips a day. I don't see spending this kind of money. And how many days a year are they being paid an hour a day to warm up school buses?
Okay.
So if you want, I'll write that down and I can give them to Andrew or whatever.
I was gonna say, why don't we write that, all your concerns and questions
Because I
down?
probably have,
Well, that's fine, write them down, and we'll give them to Tim, and he can go over the list and look at it and get back to us. Doing it now is gonna be too confusing.
Well, right, but I just, because there's
Does that
more
work for
than
you, Tim?
just 3 or
Yeah.
4.
Okay,
But
that's fine.
I'd like specific numbers though.
Do that, all right, you write it
I've
down.
been
and-
getting complaints about the buses being
Being
out
in
of town as well.
Ossipee.
There's one up in Ossipee at Northern Tire. I know that there's some in Milton. I don't think that it's unreasonable to look at this. I mean, if we can take things out of the budget that don't affect kids, if we can take some items, like we did cafe services, we decided that was going to be a more reasonable, cost-effective way of doing the lunch program. If there's a more reasonable, cost-effective way of doing the buses, for looking at it, because that's something that's not going to affect the kids.
Right.
But we need to start looking at some of these expenses.
I think we need to let Tim
As a
justify why he does it this way, and he knows what our questions and concerns are, and let him come forward. Anybody else have any questions, and email them to me, and I'll see that Tim gets them, and then he can...
And certainly the concern's been brought up over the years. I mean, this is nothing new, the buses going out. I mean, there's a couple factors that kind of fall into play. One, where do we keep them? You know, is it safe where they're kept? Is it safer to keep them at the driver's house? You know, that comes into play. Obviously, a benefit to the driver is obviously to being able to take the vehicle home. But, you know, like I had said to you before, it's obviously a board decision on the direction we go with that. And, you know, obviously the drivers would, you know, prefer that they can keep it the way it is. But, you know, whatever works for the district, you know, I'm willing to implement and
Well,
go
we've been
with it.
doing it that way for years, but just because we've done it for years doesn't mean that we need to continue to do it for years. And years ago, gas wasn't $4 a gallon.
Oh, sure.
And I guess that's what my concern's becoming. And you are starting to see them a little bit further out of town, and I'm starting to get complaints about it as well.
Well, we haven't
It's
gone
that
over
extra, it's the extra run in between, Tim.
Yep.
Because what they're doing is they're taking the bus from their home, doing their run, going back home, and then going back out again, and then back home. I think it's that trip in the middle, going back home, that's the problem.
I think also having the special ed buses having to go to Concord, Newington, Acton, Saco, Dover, people question, why did I see a bus down in Newington? Because that's where we're taking the special ed kid.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, I don't think they're questioning the small
No.
buses, I think they're questioning,
larger
those are
ones.
vans. I think they're questioning the big ones. I mean, I've seen them at Walmart's parking lot, Hannaford's parking lot, Kmart's parking lot.
But I'm getting a lot of them being, you know, parked at people's houses, out of town. And, you know, I think we should be looking for ways to try to save the taxpayers a few bucks here and there. That certainly doesn't have to do with the kids' education.
Well, if we've got $1,500 that it cost us for, what, a couple months to do that extra run? If
When
we
we started
multiply that out, that's going to cost us about probably $7,500 a year to do the extra run. So I think that we need to, I think that's a good thing, I think that's good for the kids,
Right.
and I think we need to continue that. But I think that we need to find other ways in the transportation budget, because I think we're, what, near $500,000 for transportation now?
Yep.
And I can,
Well, Tim and I did have a conversation. He said it may be the time to house these buses in one specific place.
Put an electrical panel right down at the town garage and plug them in. And then if you want to have, you can have one person go down there and fire them all up in the morning. But they don't need to be started at this time of year. People should not be getting paid an hour a day to warm up a bus. Absolutely not.
well, they've got to do their pre-check.
But they'll have to do the individual
They have
pre-check.
to
on
do
that.
Right,
their
but that
pre-check.
doesn't take an hour.
No, it doesn't.
So they shouldn't be being paid an hour. They can, you know.
We don't know if they are, though. That's something Tim will come forward and let us know.
Well, as it was reported last year, they were.
Okay.
And I requested back then how many days a year they were being paid and how many drivers are being paid an hour a day. And that answer never got answered.
Maybe we should put it in
I
a meeting.
want, and that's gonna be one of my questions. I'm gonna have, you
Fair
know.
enough.
Yeah, so just put it together and then
I
maybe
think Tim
submit it.
would rather have all our questions and be able to answer this, clear the air, and,
Yeah.
you know,
Because,
then we can
you know,
make decisions on whether or not we as a board want to house those buses all in one spot, and Tim, you know, will go along with the board's decision. Okay, great. Anything else, Tim, or is you all set?
That's it.
Thank you. You will be hearing from us.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, next.
What, maybe have them come back on the agenda after we get the answers or whatever?
That's fine, yeah. You can ask him to come anytime that he's available. Certainly. Okay, minutes of the last meeting. Any corrections? Liz? Night, Tim.
Bye, Sam.
Page 2.
I had something on page 1.
Okay, go for it.
Page 1?
Yeah, under visitors A, about 3/4 of the way down there. Mrs. Nason asked what would happen to the honor roll. Mrs. Mosher said that it would be discontinued. I'd like added in there that Mrs. Nason questioned how Spalding is still doing the honor roll, and Mrs. Kushner was going to look into that.
Okay. Liz or Judy?
Page 2, letter E, paragraph E. And next to the last line, not including the tuition item, I think, in which he expects to have a surplus of $99.
Okay.
And on number 2 there, Liz, revenue report through 4/2012. Should it be was not yet available?
That's what mine says.
That's what mine
Does
says.
that make sense? Was not yet?
Yeah.
available? Okay.
Don't you feel like you're in a classroom? when you- Is that right, teacher?
Page 4, have anything on tuition?
No.
Letter C, about 12 lines up from the bottom. All the policies in place, making sure that they apply equally to all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Page 5. Paragraph comments by public. Was told that any issue should first be presented to teacher, maybe to the teacher.
Okay.
Can you,
It's the last line of the first paragraph, under comment reports. Oh, next to the last line, presented to a
Was told
teacher.
that any issue should be first presented to
The
the,
teacher.
the teacher.
then the principal, then the superintendent.
Anything else?
Nope.
I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Have a
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Okay. Old business, I have something, old business. I talked to Peter Kasperzik. He said that he had never had a policy book, that he chose not to get one. He could get policies online, so turning it back in wasn't an issue because he didn't have one in the first place. He just wanted me to clarify that. Anybody else have anything for old business?
I had asked for a revenue report, which was given to us tonight,
Mhm.
but I had asked for the treasurer's report. We don't have that.
It's not
Not ready.
prepared.
It's not prepared yet. Okay.
Any other old business? Correspondence? Nothing. Curriculum coordinators report. Linda, good evening.
Do you want to
move the social studies presentation, or no?
Well, let's do hers and then do that. We'll do that before Scott.
Okay.
Also, Bob's here with roof bids.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want yours now, or do you want to do the
Well, I'm
social?
here with the social studies committee too, so it's up to you.
Okay, let's do the social studies committee first, in case they have to go home and go to bed because they have to go to school tomorrow. Okay.
Well, I just want to introduce this whole process to you. The social studies committee started reviewing materials back in October. They all went to the New Hampshire Social Studies Teachers Conference, visited vendors, went to sessions, did their research. We had a good-sized group that went. In terms of curriculum, Laurie and I were just talking about history. We purchased mathematics in 2004, reading in 2006, science we just purchased last year, and so it's time in the cycle to review our social studies curriculum. We had representatives bring materials so that the teachers could use them in their classrooms to get a feel for how they integrate with the other subjects, how they work for the lessons that they were planning. The presenters came and did presentations to the full staff. We had representation of the full staff, but they also were all there for one of the presentations. And tonight we have Lori Royal and Chris Soule here to present to you the differences that the committee is looking at for elementary level social studies and then middle school, 7th and 8th grade social studies. So, go right ahead.
Do you want to kick it off?
It's
All right. Well, as a first-year teacher here at Paul School, I got to say it was kind of fun to jump into the school and start teaching and then be put on the committee to basically go shopping for all the new stuff that we want to use. So as all this stuff was coming in and Linda's contacts with the vendors and everything, we exercised those very well. Going to conferences and literally, going up to vendors and saying, hey, what do you got for us? It was definitely fun, and I got a chance to take different samples of different curriculum and different textbooks and different options that were out there and actually start using them in the classroom. So I took readings from different textbooks that we got and assigned them and gauged how students did. I took assignments and ideas from teachers' editions and employed those in the classroom, and really by trial and error got a feel for what not only was new that would benefit the kids, but what would best help them out. So I approached it not only from the whole school and the whole committee, but obviously for myself, mainly the 7th and 8th grade. Our decision was basically to go with McGraw-Hill, okay, and Lori's going to go through some of the K-6 materials that we're hoping to purchase, but I brought a couple samples that we got for the 7th and 8th grade. I'm going to pass them around. Feel free to go through them. Now, they're not as hefty as the old books. Now, the old books, some of the copyrights on those are 1987, which is about how old I am. So, again, it was a real pleasure to go through some of the newer stuff and get an idea for some newer things, okay? I feel that the way the text is presented in these books is much more on level with our current students. The text is bigger. So students with sight issues, I have a few special ed students that have those issues, they have an easier time reading through it. There's more of an emphasis on pictures and primary source, like photographs and paintings and things. You see a lot more maps. Okay. Personally, I like that each chapter begins with just a lot of data. So for example, I can introduce Asia, like I have recently, by not only showing data on the United States, like our population and our wealth, but compare that to other countries in Asia, so students can get a feel for how far ahead of some countries we are, or how far behind, in some cases, we are with other countries. So they really get that worldly perspective, comparing and contrasting the different countries. One of the things that I was prepared to teach, a style of teaching in college was called UBD, which is Understanding by Design. Really trying to get at the big questions. It's great if students have memorized all, the countries and the capitals and all that, But if they don't know how they get along, they don't know the diversity, they don't know why or how conflicts start, I think that's more of the meat and bones of what a good social studies curriculum should approach. These books are very UBD friendly. They're very easy for me to present a large question at the beginning of the unit, like